Hello and welcome to Games from Folktales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson. This week, a treasure and a monster. Hercules Epitrapezios. I've been listening to a book called The Gentle Art of Faking, which is a history of art forgery, and it mentions there are several marble copies of a famous bronze statue that seems likely to house a spirit of artifice or a minor fairy god in mythic Europe. An Epitrapezios is a statue which, in classical Greece, was meant to sit in the middle of the table during a feast. It acts as the presiding god and is worshipped by the process of feasting. In exchange, it offers various blessings, depending on who the statue represents. The piece I was interested in was read into the public domain by Jordan Watts, thanks to Jordan and all the LibriVox volunteers.
The story of this Hercules is told by Martial and Statius, who inform us that it measured a little less than a Roman foot, about 9 inches. Notwithstanding its modest dimensions, the statuette was modelled with such grandeur and majestic sentiment as to cause Statius to comment, "Parvusque videri centurique ingens." Small in appearance, but immense in effect. It represented Hercules in a smilingly serene attitude, seated on a rock, holding a club in his right hand and in the other a cup. It was in fact one of those statuettes which Romans called by the Greek word Epitrapezios, and which were placed on dining tables as the genius loci of the repast. The history of this gem of Sulla's collection is uncommon, and its vicissitudes most remarkable. The statue was originally a gift made by Lysippus to Alexander the Great. This sovereign and conqueror was so attached to Lysippus' present that he carried the statue with him wherever he went. When dying, he indulged in a touching adieu to the cherished statuette. After Alexander, the little Hercules fell into the hands of another conqueror, Hannibal. It is not known how he came to be the possessor of Lysippus' work, but it may be explained by the fact that Hannibal, being a collector of art and somewhat of a connoisseur, and, above all, as Cornelius Nepos states, a great admirer of Greek art, was a keen-eyed hunter after rarities in art. However, be that as it may, Hannibal seems to have been possessed by the same fancy as Alexander, for he carried the little statue with him on all his peregrinations, and even took it to Bithynia, where, as history informs us, he destroyed himself by poison. At his death the Hercules passed in all probability into the hands of Prusias, at whose court Hannibal died. A century later the statue reappeared in Sulla's collection. Very likely it came into Sulla's possession as a present from King Nicomedes, who owed gratitude to Sulla for the restitution of the throne of Bithynia. After Sulla's death it is difficult to locate this precious statue of his famous collection. Presumably it passed from one collector to another and never left Rome. Perhaps, says Statius, it found its place in more than one imperial collection. The statue reappears officially, however, under Domitian. At this time it is in the possession of the above-quoted Vindex, a Gaul living in Rome, a friend of Martial and Statius, and one of the best art connoisseurs of his time. At Vindex's death the statuette disappears again, and no mention of it has ever been made since by any writer. What may the fate have been of this chef d'œuvre of Lysippus which passed from one collection to another for more than 4 centuries?
So some plot hooks. If Frederick II discovers the existence of this statue, he'll have his agents looking for it. He wants it for the civil war with the German princes, or for crusading. House Tremare is not fond of gods, but they don't want other people using one like this. They'd like to gently file it away in a cave somewhere. Vindex seems to have been a prince of collectors. The Hercules mightn't make you a conqueror unless you want to be. It might just allow you to excel in your field. House Verditus Magi are likely to know it exists and to want it, to allow them to defeat their rivals at the house competition. Your saga may vary.